Well, is there anything you guys want to talk about today? We have an hour and 15 minutes to waste. Sarah?
Last week you said that greed is organic and it isn't a sin. So
Greed or Greeks?
Greed.
Greek, being Greek.
Greed.
I'm just kidding.
So you said greed is organic and it isn't a sin. So what is a sin?
What do you mean?
Like, how would you define what a sin
Really, you want to start the class with a question about sin?
would be?
Can we like start with something light? Okay, well, that's one topic. Anyone else? Well, you know the word sin is Latin. It just means missing the mark. That's what it means, missing the mark. Let's say you come to this class and your mark was to get an A. And you end up, because that's what you need to go to Berkeley, for example, UC Berkeley. And you end up with a C, which means that your acceptance will be in jeopardy. Well, that's a sin, because what makes a sin is when you reflect upon an action and you feel as if you have shortchanged yourself or another. Upon reflection, you'll also come upon emotions you didn't have initially at the time where you were engaged in some activity. Emotions such as guilt, such as shame, such as remorse. Maybe even you would want to translate all of those into a physical manifestation like weeping, going to church, confessing. Imagine for a moment, I'm not suggesting that any of you do with this thing. Let's say you're smoking marijuana in your room. And you've been doing it for a long, long time. Okay? And you don't think twice about it. You always lock the door, and so just in case your mom or your dad want to come in, they can, so they have to knock. And so you kind of open the windows, turn the fan on, whatever the case may be, the smell and the smoke goes out, and then they're invited in. For some strange reason, because of agitation, frustration, forgetfulness, just being busy and forgetful, you leave the door unlocked. And you're smoking. And all of a sudden your mom comes in. Now she also knows that she must always knock, but this time she's also forgotten. She opens the door and there she sees you smoking. Now, you know, it's one thing to be caught by your little sister. It's one thing to get caught by your friend who also smokes. Because if your friend smokes and she opens the door, he opens the door, you say, oh, well, light of another one, we'll smoke together. If it's your little sister, you say, oh, it's just like, I don't know, some stick I found, I wanted to know how it feels, right? If it's your mom, the problem with your mom is it's kind of like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You know, your mom has authority over you. There is a certain self-image that you have to kind of present to your parents. They expect things from you. You have obligations, responsibilities. You fear them. You also have this great need to protect your name. There's a saying by Shakespeare that if someone steals your watch, it's just a watch. You can always replace it by going to Ross and buying one. If someone steals your name, it really makes you poor, because your name has in it cultural values, traditional values, your family tree, heritage. And so if you tarnish your name, you have nothing. And that's how the old days were, you know. You would say, I remember playing soccer back home, dirt road in our streets. And especially summertime, it would get really, really hot, temperature about 130, 140. And afterwards, us kids, like 20 of them, would go to the shop in front of the street and would say, my father, Mr. Sabzavari, will pay you when he comes home from work. And that's all you needed to say. because you had one market, everybody knew everybody, and so the guy would open up like 20 Coke bottles, and we would get some cupcakes, and we'd walk back to the soccer field, drink our Pepsi, eat our cupcake, and then go back to the game. My father would come back in the afternoon. We'd tell him, we owe this guy like some money. He said, well, how many Pepsis did you get? 20. And money, the way your relationship was with money some 50 years ago isn't like today. So your name had a lot of value. So again, let's go back to the scenario. Your mom opens the door and catches you smoking. Her heart drops. Intellectually, she's paralyzed. Emotionally, she's distraught. She doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know how to feel. All she knows is that she had this image of Sarah. She goes to school, she goes to work, she speaks well. She has all the proper social etiquettes. She's not going to do anything to tarnish our last name. We have a name in our community. And she doesn't want you to kind of inherit the culture of Oakland, all the toxins that live in the culture. She's always prayed that you have good friends, that you don't go near alcohol, near porn, near drugs. And in some ways, she also thinks of herself as a good mom and a good father. Perhaps your father is there as well. That they've trained you and given you all the right things. And here you are, smoking marijuana. And it's not this like a big deal, but it is a gateway towards more disastrous drugs. That you have perhaps some unsavory friendships. So they begin to worry. Okay? Now remember, if you happen to be, say, of a different culture, say Asian culture, Middle Eastern culture, third world culture in general, you invest your emotions, your money, everything on your kids. They are your future investments. You're not selfish. You haven't yet trained to be an individual. That's not what the culture trains you to be. You have a very tribal outlook on life. Okay. Your mom doesn't need to say anything to you. The fact that she looks at you and the fact that you are now looking at her, a couple of things happen. When you get caught, your self-image, the way you see yourself changes. You catch yourself. You also become aware that another human being, such as your mother, has caught you as well. That's a tremendous burden on your shoulders. There's a Chinese restaurant in Roseville, where my parents live. That's about 20 minutes above Sacramento. It's called Fats. Their food is really, really quite good. Okay. Now, their bathroom, the ceiling is black, the walls are white, the lights are yellow and they're dimmed. So when you look yourself in the mirror, you look really, 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 really good. Hello, Bridget. I'm no longer 20. When I usually go to my home's bathroom and I turn on the light, it's really, really bright. I see the wrinkles and I see how exhausted and how awful I look. And I quickly just run out of the bathroom. Because I don't want to see the way I look. It's horrifying, But when I go to Fats and I look myself in the mirror, I say, man, you look great. And I go out, look at the waiter and I say, can you deliver my food to the bathroom? I'd rather just sit there by the mirror. It's like the story of Narcia or Narcissus, the word Narcissus. It's kind of like a self-love, But, and you can love yourself in a variety of different ways. You can love the way you look, you can love the way you feel, you can love the way you think, and you can love the way that your soul feels, if you have kind of gotten to that level, okay? Most of us are really quite primitive here at the physical level. You kind of dress well, you put some perfume on, you go out and everybody looks and says, yeah, I'm the man, And then they get into a relationship with you and the other person says, you suck as a human being. And all of a sudden you kind of get deflated. Now, when you get caught, something happens. there is a judgment upon you that never existed before. See, when you're sitting in your room and you're unreflective and you kind of go into your habitual mode, you just smoke, you watch porn, whatever it is that you do. You get engaged in like ridiculous, stupid conversation. All right, you hang out with like ridiculous people, and you engage in childish again conversations. Okay. Hello, Ginning. How are you? It's good to see you. And when you get caught, there is a judgment. Now, the judgment is going to be quite harsh. See, your little sister doesn't have the capacity to pass a judgment upon you. Okay, she doesn't know what's going on. She's just kind of consumed by curiosity. Okay. Now, you may be surprised, but she's just curious. When your friend comes in, she passes a judgment upon you as well, but it's not negative. It's, yeah, I've been wanting to do that all day. Let's do it together. Okay, so it's in your favor. When your mom catches you, it's not in your favor. It's quite harsh. It's like God looking down upon you and not being pleased. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to look for, first, of course, you're going to bow your head down because that's what you do. Because when the eyes meet, there's a sense of honesty. You're reduced to ash. You feel quite small. It's as if you have let your mom down, your father down, you've destroyed your name. The sort of trust and faith they had in you, it's kind of now in jeopardy. You know? You don't say, maybe I shouldn't have smoked. You say, was my door unlocked? Then you say, how could I have been so stupid to keep the door unlocked? Then you say, how could I be so stupid to smoke in my room? You're not even at that mature stage where you say, what is the function of smoking? Why the hell am I doing this in the first place? You're not there yet. You're not that evolved. You're quite infantile in the way you think about things. Okay. And then what you do is you look for a fig leaf. Now, you're trying to look for a way to hide. Okay. Because remember now, there is this subtle emotion we call grief. Grief is always there when you have shame. Not embarrassment, because they're very, very different emotions. You know, embarrassment is like you're wearing a blouse, buttoned blouse, and you just were in a rush and you left a few unbuttoned, and so your privates are showing, and then someone says, oh, I'm sorry, you know, you're unbuttoned. I don't know if you did that intentionally to grab attention or accidentally, but if it's accidental, buttoned up, and you say, thank you so much. If on the other hand, someone says you're unbuttoned, you say, yeah, it's none of your business, man. Okay? That usually happens international and 24th. I drive around, I'm bored. And so when you have this emotion called shame, there is a burden upon you. Okay? Now, grief is a feeling of sadness depending on what exactly it is that you have lost. Because remember, when you get caught and you have shame, you have lost something. And you want to make it up, which is you go to your mom and you say, I apologize. Okay, I am really, really sorry. Hello. You know, you say all these things. And then you try to come up with excuses. Excuses are the fig leaves. Okay? And you don't even know why you're being this way, because you're still at the novice stage of thinking and feeling about this stuff. Okay? And so that is what a sin is. Now remember, when you're doing this on your own and it's a habit, and you haven't gotten caught either by your own awareness or by another who happens to be your superior, whom you respect, there is no sin. See, I don't know if you go to church, Sarah, or not, but if you do, You don't sit that way. See, you look at me and you say, well, it's just a crummy instructor. I'm in a classroom. I can sit however. It's okay. When you go to church, it's the house of worship. It's the body of Christ. The teachings are the blood. God is present. He's not going to appreciate you like sitting that way. You're going to put both feet on the ground, sit appropriately. Okay. So if you're not caught, there is no sin. There are no judgments upon you. There are no feelings of guilt or shame. See, some of you, for example, you have not turned in your assignments. And there is no shame in you. You don't like email me saying, Amir, by the way, I really apologize. And that really is written in a variety of different things. First, it has to do with the American culture. You are an individual. No one has power over you. You signed up for this class freely. You can drop it freely. So what if you get an F? It means nothing to you. Because education in this culture means nothing. Okay? Now, someone who comes from a different culture, perhaps, or perhaps has reached a certain level of maturity, emails me and says, Amir, I really apologize. I just didn't find this stuff interesting. Or I didn't have time. Or my kids got sick. Or my parents died. Or I died and got resurrected just a couple of minutes ago. Okay? Now, what happens when you don't turn in assignments, you wait and you wait and you wait. And there is, remember, no element of shame, no guilt, no remorse, no grief. But then comes the last week of the semester, say May 21st. Right? And all of a sudden you say, man, I've been going to class every Tuesday and Thursday. I've listened to that guy ramble on endlessly for an hour and 15 minutes each Tuesday and each Thursday for the past 16 weeks. I don't want to repeat this class, and I don't want to go back to Laney. I especially don't want to go back to Laney taking that class with Amir Sabzabari. I hate him. He's disgusting. He's like the movie Despicable, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? And all of a sudden something happens. There is no shame, but there is guilt. The guilt of having spent 16 weeks and not passing the class. And then you become agitated and you become frustrated. Not because you hold me in any high prestige or you say that you should respect me or anything of that sort. No, you just want to pass the class. You don't know why, you just want to pass the class because that's the thing that people do. And then you look at me as a church. You begin to beg. And begging comes in a variety of different shapes and forms. Amir, by the way, is there any way I can pass the class? I'll do anything. You said you like coffee. Why don't I bring you a cup of coffee? Will that, enable me to pass the class? Can I write all the essays like in the next 5 hours and turn them into you? Something about you catches what you have done for the past 16 weeks and rises to action. Now, if you happen to be religious-minded, you want to kind of connect the sins to the commandments, maybe the teachings of Jesus Christ or the Buddha, doesn't really matter. If on the other hand, you want to kind of look at sin in a way that kind of enhances the quality of your life, it can be applicable to every branch of life, every branch. Now, there is another thing you need to know about human beings. We don't come with a manual. We don't come with bullet points. Remember the story of the prodigal son. We are not born with wisdom. We are all winging it. We really, really are. In friendships, we wing it. In relationships, romantic kinds, we wing it. In getting a job, we wing it. We are just hoping that it'll turn out to be okay. But here's the thing. As you grow in life and as you change, your expectations, your definition of success, or the foundation upon which you want to build your life, they change. You want different things in life. And as you grow, you come to realize your past mistakes, and you can't overlook them. It's impossible. You know, for those of us who have been in long-term relationships, for those of us who've had children, for those of us who should have perhaps finished school at the age of 21, I mean, these decisions that led us astray, that took us on the wrong path, delayed our graduation by about 5 years, I can't tell you, they will come back to haunt you. You will have so many sleepless nights. You will say all sorts of profanities about yourself to yourself. You'll whisper them. I mean, those are sins. You've missed the mark. And if you're a human being, it's impossible not to commit sins. It really, really is. Now, if you happen to be unreflective, I mean, you just don't think about things, and you just don't feel about things, you will live a sinless life. I don't know if that's possible. I mean, even when I get a toothache, it's not like a sin or a blasphemy, a transgression against God or His creation, right? When you have a toothache, you say, man, I should have flossed. I should have brushed. I should have gone to the dentist once every 6 months. You catch yourself. And that's one of the things about pain. Pain, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's you come to realize you've made a wrong decision-making process that led you to certain engagements, that led to certain emotional upheaval, whenever you have pain, you realize you've made a mistake. Mistake is a sin. And then you want to find a way to correct it. You look for salvation. In a toothache, your salvation is not Jesus Christ, it's a dentist. Okay? If you're not passing this class, your salvation is not going to church. I am your church. You need to come to me, ask for forgiveness, see if I can give you some extra time. If you have betrayed the trust of your mom, don't go to Jesus Christ. Go to your mom. Forgive me for going back to this story again. So I built a shed in the backyard. Now I'm a very physical, strong man. Do not be deceived by my small stature. Okay, I'm like Hercules. All right. Now I made this shed 10 by 12 single-handedly. It's immaculate. It's beautiful. No one uses it. I just did it to keep myself busy, otherwise I would have gone insane. Now, see, when you're young and when you're healthy and when you think you can do something and you in fact do it, you forget a few things. Your body deserves justice. It needs rest. There are certain things that is beyond its capacities or could be. And it's gradual. It wears it down, tears it apart. I don't know how, I don't know why, but all of a sudden my body began to demand justice. How? It said you can no longer move your right arm, my shoulder. It can't go higher than this. Something about it has been torn apart. I have committed a great sin. I still need to live another 20, 30 years, maybe. Maybe I'll die tomorrow, that's fine, okay? But if I'm going to live another 20, 30 years, I need my right shoulder to be functional. So I have committed a sin against my body. Now you may think that my body has no great importance, but I gotta tell you, your body carries you to the place of your desires. Let's just say you want In-N-Out tonight for dinner, or maybe this afternoon for lunch. Well, that desire comes from somewhere. We'll go into that later on. But for you to satisfy that desire, what do you need? You need a body. That body carries you to your car. That car carries you to the highway. That highway carries you to In-N-Out. You wait in line. You pay. Food comes your way. With your hands, you put that burger and the fries and the Coke to your mouth, and then you say, that was so good, and then you go home and you have diarrhea. But remember, without your body, a healthy body, your desires will never come true. Okay? Now, my salvation in the way of healing my shoulder is I've made an appointment to go to the doctor this Friday, 9:30. Now, whether his teachings, his blood, the bullet points work for me, I don't really know. Whether my body accepts his remedies, I don't really know. But the point again I'm trying to make is, if you are a human being, you will be sinful. If not in body, certainly in thought. You are young, Sarah. How old are you? 18? What do you know about anything? Nothing. You have zero life experience. Well, maybe 2. Okay? And the funny thing is, you have another 80 years to go. And you're kind of making all of your decisions about who you want to be, what you want to be, at the age of 18. You don't even know the anatomy of that foundation upon which you're building your house. You have all these thoughts about marriage. You have zero experience. You have all these ideas about men or women. You have zero experience. You have all these ideas about what makes a life happy, meaningful, and successful. You just don't know. How could you live a regret-free life? You can't. It's impossible. If you want to be sinless, there is only one way: to never be born. You see Paula over there? Look at her. This is not about you, by the way. You see, look at her closely. You know, before she got together with her man, and before she had children, you think her mother didn't talk to her? She was naughty. You think her mother didn't reprimand her, smack her, spank her, scream at her? Of course she did. You know what she would always say? What does my mother know? She's from old school. I'm in America. Huh? You think her mother didn't tell her, don't hang out with guys, especially this one? Of course she did. She believed that she knew more about life than her mother. Huh? The arrogance of youth. And then one day, she comes to me and she's like, how's she going to tell that to her mom? And then when she had the second one, realized how difficult, raising children are, then she goes back in time and she says, man, is this what my mom went through? Am I going to go through the same stuff that I put my mom through? Huh? Huh? Every life is consumed by infinite number of mistakes. But there is hope. But it lives at the very end of the tunnel. Just before you die, Sarah. Like that last nanosecond. You'll make peace with everything. And then you'll go, since you're Catholic, you'll go to God and then send you to heaven. So if you didn't have it bad enough in this life, just wait. Does that answer your question? Now, there is another thing you need to consider. If you really, really understand and appreciate this, the idea of sin, how it comes about, what human life is all about. Once you understand how sin comes about and how we make our decisions in life, and those decisions, what sort of emotions they create, and the sort of regret that all of us are consumed by, you will try not to make any judgments at all. Let those without sin cast the first stone. Who in this class has not made mistakes? Who in this class has not sinned? Who in this class has no shame? Big or small? The trick is to catch yourself just before you make the judgment, which is enormously difficult. If I was you, I'd go to Office Depot, buy a nice bulletin and Sharpie, one of those sticks or papers that have glues on both sides. Put one on the cardboard and put the other one to your back. Write on it, I'm a sinner and I'm proud. Don't let religionists or religious people to tell you that it's bad to be a sinner. That's not true. The prodigal son is saved because he came to realize he was a sinner. I can't tell you how good it feels when you go to your mom and you say, Mom, I'm sorry, I've been a jerk all of my life. I'd like to apologize. Let me buy you a house. Makes you feel great. You finally come to realize what a horrible human being you've been. Sometimes I have students, who don't do any work, and they come to me and say, Amir, I'm not going to, tell you any fibs. I'll give you a long story that's ridiculous. I'm just going to take this class with you again next semester. I apologize. I look at him and say, okay, that deserves an A right there. Of course, I don't give it to them, but it's a nice thing to say. So, Sarah, let me ask you a question. Are you a sinner? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Are you a proud sinner? Inside that thing called pride, is there shame in it? Because there is a thing called false pride. False pride is when you claim to have something when in fact you don't. It's like, I'm very intelligent. I ask you a few questions and then you kind of reveal yourself to be stupid. There is nothing wrong with being proud. I assure you. If you have a pianist who's been playing piano for the past 30 years and gets called to Zellerbach Theater to perform, in front of 5,000 people, and, it ends and he stands or she stands and people applaud him or her and he bows or she bows, that's being proud. 5,000 people listening to you, 5,000 people listening to you giving a sermon. Why would 5,000 people listen to you? You've made sacrifices to become a great pianist. That deserves recognition. I mean, look at us. What the hell do you focus your life on? Nothing. You have a human being who's monogamous with piano. 15, 16 hours a day. And they keep practicing day after day. It takes a good amount of humility to realize you can still get better. justice coupled with mercy, pride tamed by shame, humility. Be a proud sinner, as long as there's a good amount of shame inside you, that you've caught yourself sinning, and you know that your sin will continue. It's good.